Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. Happy Monday. Indeed, again, nice one. I'm Tony Haggerty at Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle, as you all know by now. And I'm joined today by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW. Sean, how are you? Getting used to these happy Mondays?
Certainly am, Tony. I certainly am. Seems like happy Monday in the comments anyway, put it that way.
Yeah. Monday, 3rd of April, guys, we'll get to talking all things Celtic and Ross County in a second. But as we do every time we're on the briefing, we urge you to subscribe to the Celtic Way website and support top quality football journalism covering the club you love, and it'll cost you £2 for 2 months for unlimited access to everything that's written on the site, and it's all for a click of a button, and that button is www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. That's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we also say thank you to SENECA. And as you all know and are well aware now, the Celtic Way Morning Briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. And SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Now, Sean, Ross County 0, Celtic 2, Jota penalty, and Alexandro Bernabe open his account for Celtic in fine style. Results are paramount at this stage of the season, Sean. Maybe not the putting on the show that the Celtic fans have come to be familiar with, but job done.
It is, I mean, that's another game ticked off. That's the way that you look at it. We'll come to the performance in a minute, but 8 games left, 9 clear, 24 total points to play for, plus obviously as we were talking about on Friday, a gargantuan goal difference as well, 27 goals better off, I think it is. So I suppose technically they closed it one, did they? But there's not much to say beyond that, especially with the next game being what it is. Yes. I think it was important that Celtic came back from the international break and picked up where they left off. They maybe didn't do it in terms of overall performance, but they did it in result, and I would even argue they did it in general theme, by which I mean taking the lead and then subs coming on and making an impact.
They did, yes, they did indeed, and we'll come to that as well. But it was a tricky game, Sean, wasn't it? It was always going to be a tricky game. Ross County are down at the bottom, and we're always going to be, we're always going to battle hard and make Celtic win the points. But yeah, my ball crucial, keep the 9-point gap. Celtic did go out and win the points. As ever, as you said, they seem to find a way, don't they?
And to be honest, I've got a wee graphic here for you. Some of you who read the newsletter will recognise it. I've kind of amended it. You'll see where I've amended it. But back in mid-February, there it is there. Just remove that. Back in mid-February, I wrote the newsletter, and it was Celtic's 42 days of destiny, right? So it was 6 weeks, Tony, 7 games, back-to-back Hearts games in there, 2 derbies, obviously 1 trophy up for grabs in the League Cup. We're now in the final week of that, and as you can see with my lovely wee ticks there, Celtic have won every game with just the second derby left to go. They've averaged 3 goals per game in that run as well, Tony, and that to me suggests that, all right, the performance might not have been there against Ross County, but if they're averaging 3 goals per game in that run that's in front of you, then it tells me they're doing the same under pressure as they have been the rest of the season, and that is score goals. And all right, they've only kept 2 clean sheets in that run, but they were outscoring teams 3 goals per game, and as a result of that, they've basically got one hand on another trophy as well. It's remarkable, Tony.
Yes, it's a remarkable run of consistency as well. Boys are pointing out yesterday that it's 28 out of 29 domestic wins in all competitions, and 1 draw at Ibrox in January. So they're just what you want from that, but that's phenomenal for yes, there's 5 ticks on from 420 somewhere indeed. But I mean, it's a phenomenal run they're on, Sean. You're muted.
I spoke on Friday and says if they keep it up, they're obviously looking at a world record if they continue in this way.
Yes.
And it is only 1 game at a time, and that attitude has obviously led to that 3 goals a game, ticking these off one by one. It'd be good if they ticked off the one that says April 8th, Rangers at home. And then, again, as we spoke about in Friday, the situation that leaves them in ahead of the last game before the split would be, the last couple of games before the split would be ideal.
Well, you touched on the others, 8 games to go, 24 points to play for. The manager wants to win them all, Sean. He referenced that.
Carl Starfelt, he said as much the other day. Without getting drawn on, we're here to break a world record, all that kind of stuff. He made it clear that yes, they do want to win every game, but only because they want to win the next game, and that logically means they're going to win them all.
Correct. And the manager said there was 24 points to play for, and he wants to win them all and close it out and do it in fine style. It remains to be seen if they do that. But
Patrick McLaughlin's aiming for a 5-0 on Saturday. 5-0, 6-0, because he's wanting 100 league goals on Saturday, and they're in 95 at the moment.
Yeah, I'm very much aware that there's a groundswell of opinion saying that Celtic are going to run over the top of Rangers and it'll be another 3-0 or 4-0 job. I don't like that kind of talk, Sean. I think that's getting blasé and a bit overconfident and bordering on disrespecting your opponent. You know, Rangers are, this is it. This is their last hurrah in terms of a title challenge, and they will come at Celtic with some sort of game plan. But I'm of the opinion Saturday is just one of those ones. Win the game and be clinical and professional. What will be. But you have to just win the game and do your talking on the part. And I hate this kind of world. Celtic fans 3-0, 4-0, and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's I just want them to concentrate on the job at hand. You know, not make any wild kind of predictions and stuff like that. You know.
I don't think they will. I think that's that much is kind of clear so far that when they say one game at a time, they really do try and take it one game at a time. But as Postecoglou said before, in terms of fans getting carried away, they're entitled to do that as long as the players don't buy into it too much and end up taking their eye off the ball. So I have no issue with it. And to be honest, the last couple of games at Parkhead, or at least 2 of the last 3 games at Parkhead, have been
I know
one-sided.
Yeah, and I get that totally. I totally get that, but I'm just well aware of that. I'm hearing a lot that Celtic are going to run over the top of them. That may well be the case come Saturday, but I just want to keep everybody's feet in the ground. There's a game to be won, you know. I told him a walkover. Celtic are better than Rangers, and thinks they'll, and CG7 thinks they'll win. Yeah, you have to be mindful of that on Saturday, you know, because if Rangers do come and win, they'll, you know what you'll get, the title races back on, all that kind of stuff. See how Celtic react. Will they wobble? All that kind of, the narrative that will be written after that. But I just want to play it down, Sean, as much as we can until such times when they come flying out the traps, and hopefully it turns out to be a game like the one in February and the one in August that Celtic did win handsomely and convincingly.
Aye. Again, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade though, because I think there is justification for being dead positive about it. But I do take your point as well, and I think ultimately it goes back to what I said, that what Postecoglou said. I think it was last season, might have been earlier this season, but I think it was last season, that fans are entitled to get carried away a wee bit as long as the players don't. And so far, as we can see with the amount of ticks on that in the last 5-6 weeks, they've got their eye on the ball. So you would hope that would continue on Saturday. Yeah,
I'm not saying that it won't happen. I'm not saying that fans are entitled to get carried away. Of course they are, but just kind of temper it a wee bit, maybe. You know, that kind of.
CJ7 says he agrees with you, Tony, that it won't be a walkover, but he does say Celtic are better than Rangers and he thinks they will win in the end.
I don't think there's any Celtic supporter out there that doesn't think like that. Yeah, but that's fair, because that's what your eyes and what you're seeing tells you. So yeah, but we'll talk about the Rangers game in the fullness of time, won't we, Sean? Thursday, Friday, and
we shall. And going back to the Ross County game that was at hand there. Charlie McGarvey comes in and says, any word on Greg Taylor or Moyen Hatate? And there was, Tony, after the game, he was pretty much immediately asked about Greg Taylor after the game, and he was saying, as Postecoglou was saying, it's a dead leg. He thinks he's all right. It was just a bit of a knot. He was struggling, but it's nothing too serious, which suggests that he should be all right for the weekend. You'd imagine a guy like Greg Taylor, that if he is touch and go, that he'll say go.
Yeah, of course.
With Moy and Hatate though, I think we'll use this as a segue into how much did they miss them, all that kind of stuff. But he was asked about the two of them pre-match, and he just said that they were both close. They were both close. They could have been in the squad, but they were not quite ready. He pointed out that they had a full week, well, almost a full week after the Ross County game, and he did say if everything goes well, then they'll both be available. So positive news there.
I think he did the right thing with Moy and Hatate. You just don't want to see any unnecessary risks on. And you saw the game was quite a stuffy game, wasn't it? So I thought doing the right thing, wrapping those boys up in cotton wool, and even if they were fit to play, they coped with Ross County yesterday. That's the whole squad depth and stuff like that. And I wrote about the fact the verdict's up on the website today. I'm sure someone will put the link up, that it was the help of lesser players. Well, I was say lesser players in terms of game time. I meant
lesser used
fringe players like Iwata, who we'd spoken about on Friday. We'd said he would come into the reckoning, and he did. And obviously Barnaby opened his account and scoring, coming on for Taylor. So it was there's the link to the verdict piece in there, guys. You want to go and have a read at that. But it was those players, and if we're going to talk about individual performances, Sean, I thought Iwata played really, really well. The manager said as well he was the one that kind of dictated tempo and controlled it. The only downside to that for me was the fact that I didn't think Callum McGregor was as influential as he normally is, and I thought his contribution was slightly diluted because of Iwata playing in that 6 role. And I know you're quite Cal Mack was below his usual high standards, says Peter Duffy. You're a big fan of Cal Mack being in that 6 role, aren't you? Because nobody kind of quickens it up like Cal Mack whenever the ball breaks and he picks it up. And so that was what I did notice that yesterday, but I thought Iwata was excellent in what he did, to be fair.
Yep. I thought, given it was his first start, I thought he played really well. Yep. I thought your ratings pretty much aligned with what I saw. I suppose I'd maybe have given Matt O'Reilly a 6, as I don't think he was as poor as people perceived. But for me, and I think this is what it was, I think it was Derek mentioned on Friday when we were talking on here, and I think McGregor in the 6 is still just absolutely key. And that's not to say that Iwata didn't do well, because I think he did do well. But I think McGregor in the 6 is better than McGregor in the 8, basically. But what I would say to qualify that is that if, like Friday, I'm going to sit and argue that you need to suck it and see by giving the likes of Iwata time at the 6 to see if he can bring that speed of play and speed of thought that McGregor does, then it probably works the same way, that by shifting McGregor back to the 8 where he doesn't really play now, maybe it's only fair to give him a wee bit of time back there before saying, nah, move him back ASAP. So maybe I'm kind of being a bit of a hypocrite there by saying that, but I do think that McGregor at the 6 is better than McGregor at the 8.
Just had to big up Kirsty O'Connor as well, who said on Friday Iwata would play Sean. She was tweeting yesterday when the lineups came out and said that's exactly what we were talking about. So well done, Kirsty. You called it spot on too with Iwata starting. But no, I was very pleased with Iwata. His first start, and the manager said 3 months. He said he's been bedding them in slowly but surely. He did the same with other players, but and he said he's got more to give moving forward. David Ferguson says he has to admit that McGregor's poorest game for us. Sorry in advance. I didn't necessarily think he was poor. I just thought he was he wasn't in it or involved as much as he would probably liked, or as much as the Celtic supporters would probably liked. Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I think that's natural, not being in the 6 where you're not the you're not the main guy that people are looking for. But I still think when he's further, I mean, he's got the goal scorer in him. He always liked a goal. But I just think he's found the ideal position for the ideal manager, playing him at the 6. But needs must. Hatate was out for whatever reason. It was Iwata over Turnbull, and that necessitated Iwata playing deepest and McGregor playing slightly further forward. And as I say, there is an element of hypocrisy for me if I'm going to say that no, you need to move him back immediately, because I was arguing that if Iwata was going to play, then the only way you're going to see if they can get that speed of thought and speed of play when it's not McGregor is by actually playing someone who's not McGregor there. So the same thing works when you're pushing McGregor further forward and he's not used to playing there lately. I suppose if he was to play there for a run of games, which I don't think he will if Hatate's fit again and if Moy's fit again, But if he was to play 4 or 5 games there, you might find that in the 4th or 5th game, you're seeing a different Callum McGregor at the 8 than what we saw at the weekend. But nah, I will concede to that. But Derek Crawford came in saying, played well, but the tempo was nowhere near the usual and not as fluid. McGregor is wasted for him further forward. Jamie 7121 saying Iwata is very cool, always finds space and really wastes a pass. But he says Cal McGregor was off it on Sunday a little. And Blind Asabak with a great qualifier that Scotland used him as much as they possibly could use him before he came back and played. So he must have been shattered after that Spain game.
Yeah. As I said yesterday when we were in the press room, I said, and I've written this before, can't all be killers, Sean. There's got to be some filler in there, hasn't there? You know what I mean? So I think yesterday was one of those fillers, but they still got the job done. You mentioned Matt O'Reilly, and you mentioned the fact that I gave him a 5. I just thought Matt was very off it yesterday. From the eye test, certainly you might look into his stats and it might portray something completely different, but I just thought his set piece delivery was poor as well, and he got caught in possession a lot as well. That's what I saw, and certain move broke down when Matt O'Reilly got the ball, which is why I gave him a 5. Now you might do a deeper dive, and that might be, but it perplexed me a bit because I think Matt O'Reilly's a better footballer than yesterday's shown, and he's a far better footballer than yesterday's shown. So I was just a bit concerned because it's not for the first time that Matt O'Reilly's come in and he's played like that. You know, and he looks a different player to the one that he was last season. Yet when he was asked to deputise for Callum McGregor in that 6-0, he did really, really well. So it's just it's more an observation, not a criticism of Matt O'Reilly per se. But I expect more because I know he's got more in his locker. He's a fantastic footballer. But you know, and I was a bit perplexed that that's not for the first time I've saw Matt O'Reilly play like that. So that was all, you know.
Nah, I think I don't think he was a 7 or 8, put it that way, but I didn't think it was as bad as a 5. I thought he was decent. I didn't think he was actively poor. I've not really looked into his stats yet because I was too busy looking at other people's stats. But I'll throw it up on the Twitter probably as a kind of breakdown thing later on, just for whoever kind of wants to either agree or disagree with it. But I think there's a great point here from Andrew Gillier, which is with that midfield trio. He says O'Reilly could have played the 6 with McGregor and Iwata the 8s. I suppose the problem with that is if you're taking O'Reilly and putting him the deepest of the 3, he's also the most creative of the 3. Yes. So are you kind of setting up for a team that's maybe not in a low block or not sitting deep, and Ross County were sitting deep. So I don't know if it would quite have worked like that in practice, but Andrew's right to point out that O'Reilly's already shown that he can play the 6. So if you were wanting to move McGregor out of the 6, it could have been O'Reilly, but I had no real gripe with it being Iwata. That's where he feels more comfortable. It makes sense that's where you put him when he comes in. But in terms of O'Reilly, I think to go to your ratings, I think if Iwata was an 8, I think O'Reilly was a 6. So I don't think there was three marks between them. That's what I would say. But I don't think O'Reilly had a great game, but I just don't think he was as poor as what people are making out. The stats very well might prove me wrong on that as well, to be honest. I don't know. But you're right, there is a confidence thing with him, I think, as well.
Yeah. Les D comes in and says Big Andrew's getting the hump with the amount of straight passes all around. He had a go at Cameron Cattler-Vickers again for one of those balls straight out the park, and he did kind of lose it because I clocked that at the time when I burst out laughing, and he shouted at Cameron Cattler-Vickers about 4 times before Cameron Cattler-Vickers turned around and gave him some sort of answer, but he wasn't happy. But he was, I noticed that too, Les D16, that he was getting a bit irate at passes that were poor and didn't find the mark. Now, I witnessed something else, Sean, the 8th wonder of the world. I missed Kyogo being played in front of goal with all the time in the world and slotting it as confidently as you like past the post.
Yes.
It was just very uncharacteristic and one of the kind of more clear-cut chances that Celtic created on the day, and it could have made life a lot more simpler and let everybody breathe a little bit more easily. But again, that's if you're going to nitpick, that's fair enough. But were you surprised that Kyogo didn't score that one?
Aye, very much so. I thought it was a great chance, although what I have looked at the stats statistically, it wasn't Celtic's best chance from open play. It was actually that Carter Vickers header that quite early on. That was apparently statistically that was the best chance Celtic had in the game. That wasn't from the penalty spot, obviously. But and on that note, by the way, I'm going to put this up, which is you'll have seen before. It's the expected goals race chart from the game. And all I want to put it up for is to point to two things: the Ross County 1% chance of winning, which I always like to see. I always think that's quite funny. But also, I want to point out that Celtic, for anybody, not just Celtic, if you get a penalty, it counts as 0.78 towards your XG total, right? So even if I just realised that's blocking it in it. So it's 3.17 that Celtic accumulated. So even if you take that penalty off, a 2-goal margin of victory was spot on for the chances that each side created. And I just wanted to point that out because as much as I do agree that the actual performance wasn't up there in terms of the Celtic performances this season, they still managed to create enough, even excluding the penalty, which is obviously a free shot at goal. They still managed to create enough to win comfortably by 2 goals, and they won comfortably by 2 goals in the end.
Yeah, that's fair enough. You can't argue. Well, you can argue with those stats if you want, but there is no point, is there? To be fair, no, I agree with that, Sean. I thought Celtic were worthy of a 2-goal margin at least. We had the woodwork a couple of times, and we spoke about it off air. Derek Crawford's just coming on there when O came on. He gave us something a bit different, didn't he? That was an excellent cameo from O, and we spoke about it just before we came on. That turn from the throw-in was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yes,
Kenny Dalglish-esque the way he shielded the ball and used his big frame. You know, King Kenny was the best. John McGinn kind of uses his frame that way as well. But I thought that was excellent. And I was actually disappointed for him that it didn't end up in a goal. I thought,
are we putting Chris Commons in that particular trio of
you could argue that users? Yes, you could argue that too. Yeah. But I was disappointed for O because I thought that actual piece of skill merited a goal.
Yep.
You know, and I think he was disappointed with himself, the fact that he didn't score. But he came on and made an impact, didn't he? Which is what the manager always asks of his substitutes. And he looks really good, and it might well have been the day for O. Don't know, but I kind of toy with the idea of maybe playing him instead of Kyogo. But when he came on, he certainly made an impact and made his presence felt, didn't he?
I mean, I thought another really impressive sub appearance from him. I said this before, that you can't really level this at any of the Celtic players because we've mentioned enough times that the subs coming on and making an impact is now a theme of this season. But I do think that O in particular, any chances come on, and Giakoumakis did this as well when he came on. But O, having just arrived at a new club and stuff, I'm really quite impressed by how much he tries to kind of grasp the nettle when he comes on.
Yeah.
He showed, I mean, we were speaking at the turn, he showed bags of strength and ability. There's 5 years between them, right? But it was still 2 young players, and he just absolutely bossed young Dylan Smith to turn him like that on the halfway line. He had him in his chamber, like torture chamber there to do it. Beyond that, he'd a tackle and a cross, because he's one of the guys I did look at the stats for. And impressively, right, from a brief glimpse at his stats, he ended up with 11 touches in the box, Tony, which is more than any other player, despite the fact that he only came on the 75th minute. So I like that. That is making an impact. And all right, he didn't score, but he made an impact. He stuck in your head to the extent that we're sitting talking about a 15-minute cameo.
Yeah. I mean, I saw some social media stuff yesterday saying that O was the man of the match. And because he only came on for 15 minutes, we don't give players a rating that come on for the last 15 minutes, do we?
Don't get me wrong, if he scored a couple of goals, you're kind of obliged to, but generally speaking, if it's only a kind of brief run out, it's quite difficult to gauge and quite harsh to give them like a 5 when they've only had 15 minutes to make an impact, that kind of thing. There's a few, Pete McGee saying has made a big difference in his last 3 outings, can't wait to see him get a run of starts. Jerry Smith comes in saying, give O a start on Saturday. He would give the Rangers defence the run around. I would actually quite like to not necessarily start, because he's not going to start if Kyogo's fit, obviously. But see, after 65 minutes of chasing Kyogo about at Parkhead on Saturday, I would be interested to see how Connor Goldson and Ben Davies cope with O in that type of form. And I know they're not 16-year-old like debutants or rookies, but I still think they would find it quite difficult to contain an O in that kind of mood after 65 minutes of Kyogo. So, so I don't think he'll start, but I would like to see him come on. I'd like to see him get a chance on Saturday.
I think you'll find that will be part of Ange Postecoglou's game plan, because he'll probably want to see it as well, having seen what Kyogo does in the first hour, 65 minutes. Get on to rummel them up, as they say, Sean. Indeed, it blinds our backs, and that's impressive. To be fair, it was very impressive, and I think he's feeling comfortable now, isn't he? And he's feeling a bit more settled, Sean.
Well, he must be full of confidence, and I realise it's maybe hard to say that about a striker that's not starting, really. But when you think he got his move to Celtic, Ange Postecoglou said how keen he was to get that move. He got it over the line partly through force of will. Chapping the manager's door saying, I really want to go to Celtic, that kind of stuff. He's come over. He knows he's got a guy in the form of his life in front of him. It's not kind of doused his enthusiasm when he's come on. As I'm saying, he's made impressions in virtually all of his sub appearances. He did have that one start in the cup, I think it was. Was it the cup? I can't remember if it was the cup, but he still started a game. Might have actually been in the league, but he's then got a call up for Jurgen Klinsmann's first South Korea squad. He scored, albeit it got ruled out for offside, but then Jurgen Klinsmann, of all people, has come out and praising him after it. And then he's arriving back at Celtic, and he's got, well, you can see ahead of him that there's routes to at least another trophy, if not two, in front of him. So he must be full of confidence, and I think you can see that when he's playing, when he's coming on.
I think he's on an upward trajectory, as they say, Sean, is he not?
Yep.
The All Expresses gathering paces, Kaiser. It most certainly is. Now, Sean, I was about to start another comment there, but where is it? In fact, it just leads us nicely into the next. That's what it was. Helen Speaks, yes. A great triple this weekend. 3 Celtic teams winning. Celtic women's team won. Celtic B team beat Rangers 3-1, and Celtic beat Ross County 2-0. But the B team game, Sean, was eventful, to say the least, was it not? Rangers went 1 up, then lost 3-1, but were reduced to 8 men in the end up. I believe 3 sent off for Rangers, but another clinical job by the Celtic B team.
Aye, that's the third derby win this season, Tony. Rangers reduced to 8 players, 3 sendings off, but nonetheless, you still need to win the game. Ben Quinn got 2 and Adam Brooks got the other, and it puts them second in the Lowland League. Tony, a point better off than Rangers, 3 behind Spartans, who lead the way. They're also now the top scorers in the division with 91 in 33 games, which is 2.75 per game. Not quite the heights of the first team, but not a million miles off it. And they did it, remember, without Rocco Vata or Ben Summers, because they were both with the first team. And they also done it without top scorer Joey Dawson, because he's out until next year, having had knee surgery. So an impressive win, regardless, I would say, of the sendings off. Yeah,
I thought it was just a good weekend all round for Celtic in general, wasn't it, Sean?
Yes, because the women's team won as well. Wasn't a derby, this one, like the B team, but they beat Partick Thistle 2-0 at the Excelsior in Airdrie, and it was an own goal plus an Amy Gallagher strike, and that means they're also second by a point ahead of Rangers, which is a nice quirk of fate, albeit they're still 8 behind Glasgow City, and they're getting an international break just now, Tony, so it'll be all go when they come back from that.
Correct. Now, I don't want to dwell upon it, Sean, because we've spoken about VAR too many times, but the Jota VAR-assisted penalty, quick verdict from you, penalty, yeah? I know you're a studier of the IFAB rules and know them inside out by now.
Well, I don't know if anybody knows them inside out, given the way that they're applied here, but look, handball judgments have been erratic all season. I think we all well know that. And for those that are looking at that one and saying there's still no consistency, they are correct. There is no consistency, but for this one, Alex Jakaviti's arm is way out. It's almost at a right angle, while challenging for a ball that's above and in front of him. So he might feel hard done by because it wasn't deliberate, but it doesn't need to be deliberate because it was unnatural, and therefore it takes on the risk of being hit by the ball, which is what happened. So it was a penalty. Yeah.
Andrew Galea says it was a penalty all day long. People were saying TJ Legend says a harsh penalty, people saying soft penalty and all that, Sean. You know my thoughts on it. It's a penalty or it's not. There's no such thing as a soft penalty or a harsh penalty. It's either a penalty or it's not, and it was a penalty, which is why the referee was called to look at the screen and the monitor, and he decided it was a penalty. So there you go. And I don't buy this, the about the penalties that have gone against Celtic all season. You're talking about this specific game and this specific incident. It's a penalty for me. So yeah,
well,
it's
Derek
the rules
Cross,
that are the rules.
I mean, you wrote the newsletter the other day on the three kind of most controversial, your three top worst VAR decisions against Celtic. Derek says terrible decision in his opinion, but the rules are the rules, and he rightly points out Celtic have been done loads this season, and then ultimately, same as what I'm saying, it's the inconsistency that grinds his gears, and I think that's fine. I think that's fine. Steve McGrory rightly pointing out that although not a lot of people kind of spotted it at first glance, I think people were looking at the edge of the box, thinking it might have been something to do with Kyogo. Steve's rightly pointing out that Carter Vickers, who was the one challenging for the ball with him, knew right away that it hit his hand.
I also think that Cameron Carter Vickers was claiming for the fact he maybe had a hole of his jersey at one point as well.
Was he right? Okay. Aye.
Yeah, that too. I'd try to impede him, so his hand was out for the initial kind of. So I thought it was a. I didn't think it was a terrible decision. I thought it was a spot-on decision. So they have had plenty wrong when it comes to Celtic this season. So, they got one right. So, and I don't understand the outcry about it. Which I don't think there's anything controversial or harsh or terrible about it. It's a penalty all day long for me. So,
on the subject of Steve McGrory's comments, he's rightly pointing out as well that it was the Aberdeen game in the league that all started. I knew I couldn't remember. Nice
yes,
one.
Steve. Thank you for that. Good morning to you. Now, just trying to think. Any other business, Sean, we want to talk about?
No, just laughing. Big Red says, of course, Partick Thistle is a derby for the women's team. A Glasgow derby.
Well, still talking about. Malky Mackay was pretty unimpressed with the award, wasn't he? He had a right pop.
You would be if you'd considered that, I suppose. But ultimately, Iakoviti came out after it and said that he felt like it just scuffed him, which obviously means that it hit him. So I think that when you go to handball, as I say, he might feel hard done by because in his mind he was just charging for the ball and maybe had a hold of him and it's just hit his hand. It's not deliberate, but as I say, it doesn't need to be deliberate. That's one of the conditions for handball. The other would be that it's an unnatural position. And I think that was an unnatural position, and therefore you take the risk of it hitting your hand. So, do you think that can be explained by your body movement for that situation? As I say, I don't, because I think the ball was above him and in front of him, and he's got his arm out at a right angle behind him, holding Carter Vickers. So I think it was unnatural, which I think is why it's a penalty.
That's why it's been given. To be fair, isn't it? So, listen, we're never going to get consistency over those decisions. They are the ones that, do make supporters jump up and down, but the rules are the rules, aren't they? And whilst you might not think it's a penalty, I think one of the commenters saying it's been called a penalty all season.
Yeah, that's what Tom says.
So
he says it shouldn't be a penalty, but it's been called a penalty all season. Exactly, I'd agree with that. Although I would say there's still inconsistencies within what handballs have been called a penalty and what haven't. Case for the defence or case for the prosecution, I suppose it is here. But Patrick McLaughlin saying Ross County have a cheek after that O'Reilly won in November.
Yeah. Never heard Matt.
Exhibits A, B, C, D, and E.
Yeah, didn't hear Malky Mackay saying too much about that at that time either. Did you? Or Ange for that matter. But Postecoglou did say that, as I alluded to at the start, that they've got 8 games left. They still want to win all 8 games, finish the league off in style, finish it in a strong manner. And he also said that, I think he was also noting that maybe Celtic weren't great, but they still kept their discipline within the structure and found a way to win the game. And he said it's nothing new to them because they've been doing it all season. He was asked about that run, 28 out of 29, and he just said that there's been some great teams over the years in Scottish football, but this team's even surpassed some of them with the way there's the starts to the season, stuff like that. So I think he's aware that his team, are decent. They're a good side. What I mean? But he kind of always on the down low. They're not doing anything that's extraordinary to him because he kind of expects that because he sets a very high bar.
No, I'd agree with that. I think he's kind of one of those guys. If you say you play your football, if you play it to that, it's basically the same as what you were told at youth level. If we play our game, we'll win.
Yeah.
But at Celtic, that's very much really the case in Scottish football anyway. If Celtic are on their game, nobody's beating them. So
yeah, and he always makes a point of saying that if we bring that to the table, we'll be hard to stop. And even if they don't bring it to the table, like some maybe yesterday, they're still hard to stop because these guys kind of just keep going and they know, and he was talking about the discipline and the structure that they have. You know, they just have that will to win and the ability to break down teams even when it's not going for them.
Aye, I think that kind of sums it up. And even after the game, it wasn't a long Q&A this time, put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because he wanted to get down the road from Dingwall or not, but it was very to the point, even for Postecoglou, who is often to the point. It was quite brief, yes, and this is what happened. And I don't think we were the best in the final third, but they stuck to it and all that kind of stuff. And then the updating Greg Taylor, and then he was away. And I think it might have been because he wasn't too pleased with the overall performance, but there's only so critical you can be when it's the first game back after an international break, and you win 2-0, you keep a clean sheet, you score at the very end of the first half and then the very end of the second half, and your subs are involved again. But I do think he'll be wanting them to click into a slightly higher gear come Saturday.
Oh, I think he'll demand it, won't he? He'll demand that the performance is better, and it will be better. Yeah, that, you know, in the back of our international break, going to Dingwall was never going to be easy. It's always going to be tough. Ross County scrambling for points because they're down at the bottom. So you knew what the kind of game it was going to be. It was going to be a grind, wasn't it?
Aye, it was always going to be. I mean, we said on Friday the record in Dingwall's actually fine, but there's still a perception going away up to Dingwall, and especially as you pointed out, with them being in a relegation fight, you just never know at this time of the season. You've been stung by Ross County before, even though Ange Postecoglou hasn't specifically. So there was that kind of in the back of your head, despite the fact the record all said Celtic are going to win, probably win comfortably. There was still that wee niggling feeling. It's Dingwall away, Ross County away up in Dingwall. So I think that they still got through it without any real danger from Ross County. Joe Hart had 2 saves to make, but as you saw from the kind of XG race chart, they never created all that much. Hence the 1% chance of winning.
Yes. Now the countdown's on to Saturday, Sean. When he sleeps is that now? Is that 5? It'll be 5, won't it? 5. Yes. Yeah. 5 sleeps. But there you go. As I say, we'll cover that in the fullness of time before Friday. I think it'll be at fever pitch when we get to Friday, but try and keep a lid on it. But yes, Celtic are still 9 points ahead, Sean. That's that 7 weeks of destiny. There were 6 ticks there, Sean, is there? At the
6,
minute?
aye. There we go. Put it back up again. Aye. So tick, 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 tick. Hopefully a tick at the end for the tick on Saturday.
That would be a magnificent 7, Sean, wouldn't it?
It would, yep.
So hopefully that graphic sports another green tick, Sean, as you say, come Saturday. But guys, thank you for your comments today. Another happy Monday. We count down the days to hopefully another green tick appearing in that, Sean. That'd be good. But I just direct you to the ticker tape running along the bottom, and it's £2 for 2 months. If you want to subscribe to the Celtic Way, we urge you to do that. It's www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. We thank you for those who've done that. We're a community that we've built on here. We enjoy it, and we try and read out as many comments as we can and involve you guys, because they're a highly intelligent bunch, Sean. More intelligent than I'll ever be. There you go. But it's £2 for 2 months for unlimited access to everything on our website, guys. Click of a button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. And we say thank you to our sponsors, SENECA, and the Celtic Way Morning Briefing is now sponsored by SENECA Medical Group. SENECA are the #1 hair transplant company in Europe, and they offer innovative hair restoration treatments. And you can find out more about SENECA via the links in the description of this video. Have a marvellous Monday, guys. Happy Monday as always. Celtic 9 points clear at the top, 28 wins out of 29 matches, Sean. Can't get better than that. Maybe 29, but that's neither here nor there. That's nitpicking, but it's still sensational for them as they go into the Glasgow Derby on Saturday and could place one big almighty hand on that trophy again, Sean?
Certainly will. Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you. As I say, have a great day. Thanks for your contribution, Sean. Always first class. Take care.
Cheers, Tony. Cheers, Troops.